You're watching San Diego 6 News at 4.
This morning, the Supreme Court recognized that the Constitution guarantees marriage equality, that all people should be treated equally, regardless of who they are or who they love.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Jim Patton.
And I'm Netta Iranpour. Same-sex marriage is now the law of the land after the Supreme Court's decision today.
And we have team coverage that we are going to get to in just a moment, but we begin with breaking news this afternoon. One of the inmates who escaped from a New York prison 3 weeks ago has been shot dead, while the other remains on the run.
San Diego 6's John Carroll joining us live in the newsroom with the new details we've just learned here. John.
Yeah, Netta and Jim, we learned Richard Matt was shot and killed this afternoon by a federal border agent in a heavily wooded area of upstate New York. Right now, police have blocked off roads near the Canadian border as they continue the search for fellow escapee David Sweat. U.S. Senator Charles Schumer of New York says searchers closed in on the pair after receiving a 911 call from a woman who heard what she said was an intruder knock on her door overnight. The woman called police, who brought in tracking dogs, and they found Matt. Authorities say the two used power tools to break out of the Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, New York, near the Canadian border. Sweat was serving a sentence of life without parole in the killing of a sheriff's deputy. Matt was serving 25 years to life for the killing and dismembering of his former boss. A prison guard and a prison tailor shop instructor are accused of helping the inmates escape by smuggling them tools hidden inside hamburger meat. More to come. Live in the newsroom, John Carroll, San Diego 6 News.
John, thank you. Landmark decision. For the first time in our country, same-sex couples have equal marriage rights.
That's right. Gay marriage is now legal in all 50 states. We have complete team coverage of the Supreme Court ruling. Amanda Shotsky live in Hillcrest, where the celebrations have already begun.
Carlos Correa in our newsroom tracking reaction from those who oppose the ruling. But we begin with San Diego 6's Jenny Day. She is live at the LGBT Community Center in Hillcrest, where support for gays and lesbians has been pouring in, including from local leaders. Jenny.
Hey, good afternoon. We are here live at the center in Hillcrest, where this place will be packed by 6:30 tonight. Americans nationwide are saying love wins, equality wins. Tears of joy have been shed all day. Today our nation changed forever, and some local, even some religious leaders are pleased it has finally happened. Liberty and justice for all. The words of our pledge now holding more truth than ever before. Gay marriage legal in all 50 states. The fundamental right granted by the United States Supreme Court marks a historic day supported by many of our local leaders.
This was a hard-fought victory and one that feels particularly sweet.
The debate spanning decades is over. Even the Christian minister at Kensington Community Church says today the United States is a more free, more loving, more accepting, and indeed a more just society. Let freedom ring and the wedding bells sound with love. Even school leaders are optimistic this will eliminate discrimination for future generations, having nationwide acceptance for all. Many supporters are comparing this ruling to that of women's rights, even interracial marriage. Gloria says it's difficult to believe such discrimination was ever up for debate.
I think it's hard for some folks who haven't had the experience of their government telling them that they're less than another citizen. Can you understand what it is when the government acknowledges they got that wrong?
Supporters say this ruling was handed down because those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender are not asking for anything outlandish. Couples who love each other want to uphold the sanctity of marriage by receiving the same dignity.
Really very little changes for those who are opposed to this, and I think actually the community improves because more people are living under the law, which is a good thing. Supporters say there is still more work to be done for equal rights, but for now, they celebrate this victory.
We'll be out in the communities making sure that everyone who's out there celebrating has a great time.
And you can be sure there will be a huge party in Hillcrest tonight, and Pride this year will no doubt be one of the biggest ever. And stay with us. In just 30 minutes, the Speaker of the Assembly, openly gay Tony Atkins, will be joining us for a live interview. Live in Hillcrest, Jenny Day, San Diego 6 News.
Jenny, thank you. It was one man's fight that led to this change for millions. Now, the lead plaintiff in the Supreme Court case has legalized same-sex marriage nationwide, and he's dedicating the victory to his late spouse. Jim Obergefell married his spouse, John Arthur, in 2013, just months before Arthur died. The couple lived in Ohio but had to travel to Maryland to get married. Since Arthur's death, Obergefell fought to be recognized as Arthur's spouse on his death certificate. He sued the state of Ohio for refusing to recognize his out-of-state marriage, and today he won.
Today's ruling from the Supreme Court affirms what millions across this country already know to be true in our hearts. Our love is equal. It's my hope that the term gay marriage will soon be a thing of the past, that from this day forward it will simply be marriage, and our nation will be better off because of it.
Obergefell was being interviewed by CNN outside the court today when he was told a very important person was on the phone to talk to him.
Your leadership on this, is changing the country.
I really appreciate that, Mr. President. It's really been an honor for me to be involved in this fight and to have been able to, fight for my marriage and live up to my commitments to my husband.
President Obama told Obergefell that he couldn't be prouder of him and his husband.
And change is sweeping across states that denied same-sex couples a marriage license. Until today's ruling, same-sex marriage had been banned in 14 states. Soon after the court's 5-4 decision, weddings were underway in Georgia, Ohio, Texas, Arkansas, Michigan, and Nebraska. Kentucky's governor also cleared the way for county clerks across his state to issue same-sex marriage licenses immediately. However, in Mississippi, the Attorney General says a federal appeals court must lift a hold on a gay marriage case before licenses can be handed out there.
And while this historic ruling may be a huge victory for same-sex couples, not everyone approves of the Supreme Court decision.
Religious and conservative leaders opposed to gay marriage say their fight over this issue won't end today. San Diego 6's Carlos Correa joining us live in studio with this part of the story. Carlos.
Jimenetta, good afternoon. The argument is simple for conservative groups who strongly believe that marriage is a union only between a man and a woman. They say it's not a right, but a privilege they will continue to fight and follow. In the very same community where the gay pride flag is proudly displayed, there is reason to celebrate. But a few feet away, on the block named for a historic figure in the LGBT community, there is a different tone.
Men and women are distinct and different. The social reality that children need a mother and a father, and so that's what I base my belief in.
Opponents on gay marriage are speaking out, some calling the Supreme Court ruling a mistake.
The court certainly overstepped their bounds in terms of what the majority of the people think.
Conservative groups and faith leaders have been bracing for the historic ruling for months, many starting to develop legal strategies to carve out religious exemptions.
The purpose of marriage to begin with was to raise a family. I don't really care what anybody thinks. 2 men or 2 women don't do the job.
Leaders with the Republican National Committee released a statement saying the Supreme Court failed to recognize the state's constitutional role in setting marriage policy, instead finding a federal role where there is none.
I think the LGBT community, they fought a good fight and they won. And so that's what the law is, and so we have to respect the law. But on the same side, we ask that, our religious freedoms also be respected.
Activists say the Supreme Court ruling will have a big impact on the upcoming presidential election. They say now that the decision has come down, lawmakers can focus on other issues such as education and immigration.
We'll never solve some of these social issues. There will always be differences of opinions on those things. But what we can do as Americans is come together.
Just last week, the House and Senate Republicans introduced a bill preventing the federal government from penalizing federal employees, contractors, or religious affiliated groups that oppose gay marriage. I'm Carlos Correa, San Diego 6 News.
Thank you, Carlos. And this was a close and divided decision, with the Supreme Court voting 5-4 in their ruling. Some of the dissenting justices have released statements. In one, Chief Justice John Roberts argued the court should not be able to set such a precedent, saying, quote, under the Constitution, judges have power to say what the law is, not what it should be. And in another dissent, Justice Samuel Alito says it's not the court's role to decide, but rather the Constitution leaves that question to be decided by the people of each state. state. Justice Anthony Kennedy was the pivotal swing vote. In his majority opinion, he wrote, "No union is more profound than marriage, for it embodies the highest ideals of love, fidelity, devotion, sacrifice, and family. They ask for equal dignity in the eyes of the law. The Constitution grants them that right."
From coast to coast, gay and lesbian couples and their supporters are celebrating.
New York, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Indianapolis. These are just a few of the cities. There's no exception here at home. San Diego 6's Amanda Shotsky live at Moe's in Hillcrest, where people started these festivities pretty early there, huh, Amanda?
Yeah, Jim, Netta, this is the party before the party, if you will. But as you mentioned, the cheers, the toasting started early this morning, and we were here celebrating with patrons and also on this historic day for owners here as well.
Cheers.
The celebrations begin bright and early at Moe's in Hillcrest.
I think it's a great time for a lot of people. Everyone's love is finally recognized, and I think it's just really cool.
Patrons raising a glass to the Supreme Court's decision Friday, making gay marriage legal across the nation.
Overjoyed. I mean, it's a milestone for the LGBT community.
20 minutes before the announcement, I was texting family members in anticipation.
Jeff Thompson and Michael Olson have been together for 5 years. They got engaged in November.
It's just the cherry on top.
At the bar, Brian Griffith took the day off work, calling today's ruling a family affair.
Really exciting. I have 2 gay dads and I'm gay myself, so it's just really cool to see it finally happened.
The owner of Moe's here in Hillcrest also owned 3 other establishments around town. They say they are excited to see how the Supreme Court's decision will affect their patrons, but also their personal lives as well.
I've been with my other half for 32 years, so it's been a long time, and we still haven't gotten married. I think this would change our thoughts about getting married.
Despite a steady climb in the number of states authorizing gay marriage, Chris Shaw says he was surprised by today's decision.
I'd never thought in my lifetime that this would happen.
The historical tide has turned in this direction, and I think it will be extremely difficult to turn it back.
Celebrating a historical decision and looking towards the future.
I think it's just equality for us. I mean, that we could walk around and be ourselves and express ourselves naturally. That's the biggest thing.
As you can see, it's already filling up here. The owners putting on their Facebook page shots all around to celebrate marriage equality. That party starting at 6 o'clock. We are live in Hillcrest. Amanda Shotsky, San Diego 6 News.
Thank you, Amanda. And straight ahead, final goodbyes in Charleston today. Mourners packed an arena to bid farewell to the Reverend Clementa Pinckney.
How President Obama paid tribute to one of the 9 people gunned down during Bible study in both word and song.
And 2 young lives gone in an instant as a speeding car slams into a tree in Chula Vista. Neighbors say this isn't the first time they've seen this kind of thing happen.
Plus, 3 attacks in one day, how the U.S. is responding to suspected terror attacks in 3 countries that have killed dozens of people.
And we'll have your weather forecast coming up next. Yes, a threat of fire conditions in our area, but there's a chance of moisture as well. We'll break it all down for you in just a second.
You're watching San Diego 6 News at 4 with Jim Patton, Netta Iranpour, and Chief Meteorologist Sabrina Fine.
Chula Vista police are investigating what caused a high-speed rollover crash that killed 2 people early this morning.
Nancy Aziz joins us now in studio with reaction from neighbors who say they see this type of thing way too often.
Well, witnesses and police say the car was likely traveling at least 60 miles an hour in an area where the speed limit is half that. The violent single-car crash ending 2 young lives in an instant.
It's definitely sad because they have family, and it's probably hard to hear when they don't make it home safe.
On the site where 2 young men died, a small circle of people thought to be family members paid a silent tribute. People who live nearby say they're saddened. Speeding has apparently left 2 victims dead and families grieving.
It was just a loud crash. It didn't sound like they braked at all.
Police believe the BMW carrying a male driver and his male passenger was traveling at excessive speeds on Telegraph Canyon Road, perhaps more than 60 miles an hour, when the car flipped over and hit a large eucalyptus tree, slamming it to the ground.
The vehicle had rolled numerous times over a long distance on the roadway,
and off the roadway. So it was a very violent scene.
Neighbors say the crash woke them from sleep just after 2:30 this morning. They say racing down their street happens weekly, and just backing out of the driveway can be a hazard.
Sometimes I hear it at night. You can hear the race cars come up and they do that whole and then they speed off.
One neighbor here tells us speeders have crashed into his fence 14 times in the last 22 years, and his fence still has the scars to prove it. He says the last time was just 2 weeks ago.
Some say they'd like to see speed bumps put in. Police say the tragic accident should make people think.
I don't think people realize the weight of a vehicle, and when you go fast, what happens if you lose control of that vehicle. It doesn't stop until it runs into something or it runs out of motion.
Police are still investigating whether alcohol played a role, while family members will have a lifetime of their own questions.
The names of the victims have not yet been released pending notification of family members. We do know the men were in their 20s or 30s. In the newsroom, Nancy Aziz, San Diego 6 News.
Nancy, thank you. Series of attacks has the world on alert. The United States is condemning the terrorist attacks in France, Kuwait, and Tunisia today that left dozens dead, hundreds injured. In Tunisia, a gunman disguised as a vacationer opened fire at a tourist beachfront hotel, killing 37 people and leaving 36 injured. Tunisians, Germans, Belgians, and British citizens are among the dead. Most of the people at the hotel are visitors from Europe. One British tourist posted this photo during the attack. It shows his bed up against the hotel room door with the caption, "Hope it's enough." Tunisian officials say the gunman was killed by police and another is being pursued. Also, the U.S. Embassy in Paris is warning American citizens to be vigilant after an attack on a U.S.-owned gas factory in southeastern France. A delivery man drove into the chemical factory where he works and crashed into a hangar, prompting an explosion. A decapitated body, identified as the boss of the suspect, was found near the crashed truck. The head was hanging on a gate, surrounded by 2 flags carrying Islamic declarations. The Interior Minister in France says the main suspect and 3 people have been detained. Meanwhile, in Kuwait, a bomb attack at a Shiite mosque leaves 25 dead, more than 200 injured. About 2,000 people were inside that mosque during the explosion. The Kuwaiti Prime Minister says the attack is an attempt to threaten national unity. This is the only attack ISIS has claimed responsibility for. As of now, there is no indication that the series of attacks were coordinated.
He was a good man. That's how President Obama described the slain Reverend and Senator Clementa Pinckney. Today, the College of Charleston's basketball arena was packed with over 5,000 mourners gathered to say their final goodbyes. Pinckney was one of 9 people killed by Dylan Roof last week at the historic Emmanuel African Methodist Church in South Carolina. President Obama delivered his eulogy.
What an example he set. What a model for his faith. And then to lose him at 41, slain in his sanctuary with 8 wonderful members of his flock.
The president also talked about the symbol of the Confederate flag and said for many it's a reminder of systemic oppression. Towards the end, he broke into song, leading the mourners in a round of Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
And yesterday, funerals were held for 2 women who were also killed in that shooting. Next week, the other 6 will be laid to rest.
It has been 9 days into a wildfire that sparked near the south of Big Bear Lake, and it continues to grow to nearly 47 square miles. Last night, another fire broke out just miles from where the lake fire first began. In this morning's update, it remained only 19% contained. As of today, the cost of the blaze has reached into the millions. More than 2,000 firefighters are working on putting it out. Cause of the fire still under investigation. Netta, last night to fill in for Sabrina today, but we've been talking about the humidity. Is it still favoring at least the fighting of these fires?
Unfortunately, right now, I just checked in that area. It is down to the teens, so 15% humidity by that lake fire and very low percentages also at the Calgrove fire. That one's also still burning. Look at this here. We're at 12% humidity there in Santa Clarita, where the Calgrove fire is still burning. And the winds, look at those gusts, 25 miles per hour down there in Santa Clarita, 15 in San Bernardino. So these firefighters do have a tough fight ahead, and what they're also watching is the chance of dry lightning to hit our area. So right now we do have red flag warnings across much of California, excessive heat warning throughout the southern region, including parts of San Diego County. Temperatures could reach the triple digits, if not 120 in some areas like Death Valley. And looking at our current conditions, 87 Palomar Mountain, 78 Escondido, 81 in Poway. San Diego right now at 74 degrees. And we're looking at the wider view here. We are seeing a little bit of monsoonal moisture. So this is the rain and thunderstorms that are coming down across parts of Arizona, New Mexico right now. And we're hoping that brings some moisture into our area, not just dry lightning, because that's when that danger could pop up. So we do know that firefighters, especially CAL FIRE, keeping a close watch on what happens in the skies. Jim.
And we'll be doing the same. All right, thanks, Netta. Coming up, passing the cost on to the consumer, what the San Diego County Water Authority wants consumers to help pay for.
People don't understand looking into the mirror and nothing seems right.
Telling her story, we're getting our first look at Caitlyn Jenner's new TV series and what she's promising to share.
Authorities in Alaska plan to continue recovery efforts after a sightseeing float plane crashed, killing all 9 people on board.
This is a major investigation for the NTSB. At this point right now, we are sending 3 investigators.
The passengers were initially traveling on a cruise ship when they decided to take a sightseeing shore excursion. The aircraft crashed in a steep mountainous area. The poor weather and steep terrain made it hard for crews to reach the wreckage. It's still unknown what caused the crash. New today, the man accused of attacking and stabbing 2 San Diego firefighters pleaded not guilty in court. Ryan Jones is accused of attacking the firemen at an East Village trolley stop. Authorities say the firefighters were helping another man when Jones started stabbing them. Officers stopped it by dousing the suspect with pepper spray. Both victims suffered multiple stab wounds. They are expected to be okay. Jones is now being held on $750,000 bond. He faces 3 charges, including attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon.
San Diego County Water Authority approved a $1.5 billion budget to cover the next 2 fiscal years. That includes rate increases for the 24 agencies in the region. According to the Water Authority, spending will go up by 2% because of higher costs to treat water. The rates will jump a total of 6.6% for untreated water and 5.4% for treated water. Agency previously trimmed staff and cut back on outside consultants to lower costs. Meanwhile, the desalination plant in Carlsbad set to start operations this fall. Telling her story, we're getting our first look at Caitlyn Jenner's new series for E!
It's called I Am Kate.
People don't understand looking into the mirror and nothing seems right. Putting on clothes that you just really don't identify with. This is about getting to be who you really are.
In the promo released today, Jenner promises to talk about everything, do a lot of fun things for the first time like shopping. I Am Kate premieres July 26th on E! Still ahead, hearing from the GOP.
What some of the Republican presidential candidates have to say about today's same-sex marriage decision.
Again, historic, landmark, monumental. Gay marriage is now legal nationwide. We'll be speaking live with the Speaker of the Assembly next.
You're watching San Diego 6 News at 4.
Welcome back. We continue to follow breaking news out of New York.
One of the inmates who escaped from prison 3 weeks ago has been shot dead and another still on the run. Authorities say Richard Matt approached an officer with a shotgun before being shot and killed by federal agents. Police looking for David Sweat are trucking floodlights into a heavily wooded area in Malone where they believe he is hiding and where Matt was killed.
The site is about 30 miles from the Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora where the inmates escaped. The duo had been on the run since June 6th.
And turning now to our coverage on the historic ruling handed down by the United States Supreme Court.
For the first time ever in our country, same-sex couples have the right to marry in all 50 states. And we have complete team coverage. Amanda Shotsky live in Hillcrest, where the celebrations have already begun.
And Carlos Correa is in our studio tracking reaction from those who oppose this ruling. But we begin with San Diego 6's Jenny Day. She's live at the LGBT Community Center in Hillcrest, where support for gays and lesbians has been pouring in, including from our local leaders. Hey, Jenny.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. There's going to be a huge party here tonight at 6:30, but I want to talk right now with our openly gay Speaker of the Assembly, Toni Atkins. Thank you so much. How has today been for you? Describe it for me.
Well, it's an emotional day. Of course, I look forward to celebrating in a couple of hours with my community here in San Diego. But, you know, we've been able to have marriage for quite a few years now. What's incredible about today is our friends and family across this country get to join in the ranks of having the same rights that everyone should have to marry the person they love.
What do you think this means for LGBT youth and just the next generation who may not have to face this discrimination?
Well, I think it shows that we are a country that respects equality under the law. And the Supreme Court said today that that is exactly where we are at this point in time. I think it's a great message for our young people, certainly, that they are coming up in an age that most of us never thought we would see. Certainly, I didn't think that I would see this in my lifetime.
Our generation is witnessing this. And tell me, what do you think this means? We have a presidential campaign coming up. What does this mean for the future?
Well, I was thrilled to hear, of course, our president's comments today at the ruling of the Supreme Court. I think any candidate for president should understand that civil rights includes all Americans. And so just as we celebrated Gay Pride in Sacramento on Monday and recognized pioneers, we had plenty of our Republican colleagues bipartisan support for a resolution in support of Gay Pride Month. So views are changing. Views are changing.
I would say the majority now indeed supports that. How does that feel?
Well, it feels reaffirming. It feels right. I mean, I think that people and the public have been able to see, because we have been able to get married in 37 states, it's really opened hearts and minds and public opinion that this is a good thing. It's a good thing for every person to be able to have that right to live their life with the person they love.
Well, that's what so many people are saying. You really are not asking for much here, the right to marry the person you love.
Well, I think a commitment we make to another person really is the foundation of our society, and that's what we've said all along. We are part of society. We want that foundation. We want that right. So now, you know, I heard someone say earlier today, when I say the Pledge of Allegiance, you know, it means really equality for all.
Yeah, liberty and justice for all. Well said. And you've been an advocate for equality forever, so thank you for the work that you're doing. Again, big party planned in Hillcrest tonight, you can be sure. 6:30 here at the center in Hillcrest. Back to you guys.
Jenny, thank you. Republican presidential hopefuls have been responding all day to the Supreme Court's decision. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, a longtime same-sex marriage opponent, exemplified the more cautious end of the GOP spectrum, saying, "I believe the Supreme Court should have allowed the states to make this decision. I also believe that we should love our neighbor and respect others." Meanwhile, former governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee, held nothing back, saying, "I will not acquiesce to an imperial court any more than our founders acquiesced to an imperial British monarch. We must resist and reject judicial tyranny, not retreat." Religious and conservative leaders are also speaking out today.
Those who oppose the Supreme Court decision on gay marriage say their fight over this issue will not end today. San Diego 6's Carlos Correa is joining us live in studio with the other side to this story. Carlos.
And good afternoon to you. The argument is simple for conservative groups who strongly believe that marriage is a union only between a man and a woman. They say it's not a right but a privilege. They will continue to fight and follow. In the very same community where the gay pride flag is proudly displayed, there is reason to celebrate. But a few feet away, on the block named for a historic figure in the LGBT community, there is a different tone.
Men and women are distinct and different. The social reality that children need a mother and a father. And so that's what I base my belief in.
Opponents on gay marriage are speaking out, some calling the Supreme Court ruling a mistake.
The court certainly overstepped their bounds in terms of what
the majority of the people think.
Conservative groups and faith leaders have been bracing for the historic ruling for months, many starting to develop legal strategies to carve out religious exemptions.
The purpose of marriage to begin with was to raise a family. I don't really care what anybody thinks. 2 men or 2 women don't do the job.
Leaders with the Republican National Committee released a statement saying the Supreme Court failed to recognize the state's constitutional role in setting marriage policy, instead finding a federal role where there is none.
I think the LGBT community, you know, they fought a good fight and they won. And so that's, you know, that's what the law is, and so we have to respect the law. But on the same side, we ask that, you know, our religious freedoms also be respected.
Activists say the Supreme Court ruling will have a big impact on the upcoming presidential election. They say now that the decision has come down, lawmakers can focus on other issues such as education and immigration.
We'll never solve some of these social issues. There will always be differences of opinions on those things. But what we can do as Americans is come together.
Just last week, the House and Senate Republicans introduced a bill preventing the federal government from penalizing federal employees, contractors, or religious affiliated groups that oppose gay marriage. I'm Carlos Correa, San Diego 6 News.
Thank you, Carlos. And social media has been buzzing since the news broke this morning. The hashtag #LoveWins is the top trend today with millions of tweets. And when you use the hashtag, Twitter automatically adds a rainbow heart emoji. And Facebook is also getting in on the excitement, letting users add a rainbow filter to their profile pictures. You can do it by going to facebook.com/celebratepride. From coast to coast, celebrations have been going on all day across the nation.
New York, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Indianapolis. These are just a few of the cities, and there's no exception here at home.
San Diego 6's Amanda Shotsky is live at Moe's in Hillcrest, where people started their celebrations early. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, yes, it's getting very busy here. People coming in for the party, before the party down the street. But this has really been an all-day celebration, as you can hear, with people coming in to cheer this historic decision.
Cheers.
The celebrations begin bright and early at Moe's in Hillcrest.
I think it's a great time for a lot of people. Everyone's love is finally recognized, and I think it's just really cool.
Patrons raising a glass to the Supreme Court's decision Friday, making gay marriage legal across the nation.
Overjoyed. I mean, it's a milestone for the LGBT community.
20 minutes before the announcement, I was texting family members in anticipation.
Jeff Thompson and Michael Olson have been together for 5 years. They got engaged in November.
It's just the cherry on top.
At the bar, Brian Griffith took the day off work, calling today's ruling a family affair.
Really exciting. I have 2 gay dads, and I'm gay myself, so it's just really cool to see it finally happened.
The owner of Moe's here in Hillcrest also owned 3 other establishments around town. They say they are excited to see how the Supreme Court's decision will affect their patrons, but also their personal lives as well.
I've been with my other half for 32 years, so it's been a long time, and we still haven't gotten married. I think this would change our thoughts about getting married.
Despite a steady climb in the number of states authorizing gay marriage, Chris Shaw says he was surprised by today's decision.
I've never thought in my lifetime that this would happen.
The historical tide has turned in this direction, and I think it will be extremely difficult to turn it back.
Celebrating a historical decision and looking towards the future.
I think it's just equality for us. I mean, that we can walk around and be ourselves and express ourselves naturally. That's the biggest thing.
On Moe's Facebook page, they posted shots all around for marriage equality. That starts tonight at 6 o'clock, so in about an hour and a half. For now, we are live in Hillcrest. Amanda Shotsky, San Diego 6 News.
Amanda, thank you so much. We turn now to Netta, who's been filling in for Sabrina this week, doing an awesome job.
Thank you.
And you've been talking about these storms heading in our direction.
Yeah, it looks like they're getting closer and closer. It's all because of this, our jet stream. So what we're seeing right now, there is a lot of storm activity down in Mexico. And as this rises, the jet stream rises, we're going to see it work its way into parts of San Diego where there is a slight chance of rain, but we're also getting a slight chance of thunderstorms as well, and some dry lightning mixed in with that. So what that's going to do to our temperatures, we're going to talk about that in just a bit as we look at our 7-day forecast and also look at some of the fire conditions and what the firefighters are watching for.
All right, sounds good. Well, working out hard enough without getting smacked in the face, the wardrobe malfunction that has Lululemon issuing a recall. Plus, why the age you go through puberty matters. A recent study links certain diseases to early adulthood. And comedians fighting back what happened after a Sports Illustrated writer said he didn't like any women's sports. Those stories next in your Daily Dose.
Time for your Daily Dose now. Hundreds of yogis unite for the military. Warriors for Healing, in partnership with Yoga Journal Live, will raise awareness this weekend in San Diego about the challenges veterans face. More than 600 yogis, veterans, and military supporters will join in on an event led by Bava Ram, a former war correspondent and founder of Warriors for Healing. And this is all meant to honor and raise money for veterans. Funds raised will go towards providing free trauma therapy for PTSD patients in VA hospitals and yoga studios nationwide. You can join them Sunday from 1 to 2:30 at the Hotel del Coronado. The age that children hit puberty has been found to be a significant predictor of their health later in life. A recent University of Cambridge study confirms a link between early puberty in women and heart disease and type 2 diabetes. The research has also shown for the first time that early puberty in men is also associated with these conditions. Those who went through puberty relatively early had around 50% higher risk for type 2 diabetes and heart disease. However, women and men who went through puberty relatively late had a higher relative risk of developing asthma. A mom and musician takes her tummy to the public to show she doesn't have a perfect bod. Kimberly Henderson gained a following after her lullaby cover of Whitney Houston's How Will I Know went viral. Henderson, who's also on American Idol, is back in the spotlight for a different reason. The mother of 4 shared a selfie that shows off her imperfect stomach with a few stretch marks on it. She said she decided to leave her belly unedited because while she used to have a six-pack, she now knows no amount of working out will make her stretch marks disappear. This is the picture we're talking about. But she does get to wake up to 4 beautiful smiling faces and says it's all well worth it. Now, women's sports are not worth watching. That's the comment by Sports Illustrated's Andy Benoit that got Seth Meyers and Amy Poehler so upset they reunited for an episode of Really?
By the way, here's the go-ahead goal from the England-Norway game. Plays it out wide again. The shot by
So that was the goal during the Women's World Cup that prompted a Sports Illustrated editor to tweet, "Some people like Andy Benoit argue women's soccer isn't worth watching," to which Benoit responded, "Not women's soccer, women's sports in general are not worth watching." So here's the response from Late Night with Seth Meyers.
Yes, I'm not surprised that you work for Sports Illustrated. You guys put out a swimsuit issue every year dedicated entirely to women who aren't in sports. Unless you think that it's a sport to cover both boobs with one arm. Really?
So after that whole skit, Benoit has since apologized. I think he does feel bad for his tweets.
And that's simply not true. Lots of people enjoy women's sports.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah.
Action-packed. They're great athletes, so of course.
A good game or a good competition, that's what you're after, for sure.
Absolutely. Let's check out on our forecast. Let's look outside right now. Look at those little bits of clouds coming through. We are getting the beginnings of what might be some thunderstorms headed towards our region because of what's going on in Mexico and across the Four Corners state. So as we look at this live picture of beautiful Bahia Resort, we are starting to see the beginnings of what's on its way. Let's talk about our current conditions right now. We're looking at La Mesa here. It is 72 degrees right now and our 68% humidity. So that's starting to rise a little bit higher than where we were yesterday. Winds coming out of the west-northwest at 15 miles per hour. And our current conditions as we move further inland, Borrego Springs 92 degrees, a little bit cooler than what we had at this time yesterday, with just 3-mile-per-hour winds. We're hoping the higher elevations see a lot calmer winds. Look at our radar though. That's what's happening in Mexico, parts of Texas, parts of Arizona and New Mexico. That's a whole lot of green on the radar. This is some areas of flash flooding, some heavily storm activity, and guess what's happening? Yes, it's starting to trickle into our region. A lot of the green you see here through Southern California, that's in the clouds. That's in the form of virga. But look at this water vapor. When we looked at this yesterday, it was a lot of dry air across our area. Now we are starting to see bits of that blue. So that does mean there's a little bit more moisture in the air, which is great news because as we get the chance of thunderstorms, we want that moisture so we can prevent any kind of fire activity out there. there. Rain cloud forecast now looking across the state of California. Look at the clouds coming through Saturday. A heavier day on Sunday into Monday. That's when we'll see more of the green build up in our region. This is Monday afternoon, so hopefully we'll get a little dousing with this one. Sunday through Monday will be the days where it's going to be stronger, which means, hey, if anyone's going to the fair tomorrow, it shouldn't be too bad. 69 degrees in Del Mar, decreasing clouds. So we'll see similar to what we're seeing right now. Some of those wispy, pretty clouds out there. And anyone going out to the surf, check this out. Port of Fair conditions, just 1 to 2 foot waves, nothing too big or crazy. So it might be a good day to take the family out. Temperatures in the water pretty warm. Don't really have to brace yourself to get in there when they're down in the low 70s. And looking at our 7-day forecast for the weekend, 74 and 73 for your Saturday and Sunday. There is, again, that slight chance of rain. Not enough to make it to the 7-day, unfortunately. But as we look at the 7-day forecast for the mountain ranges, that's where we're really going to put that in the forecast, with Sunday, Monday, Tuesday into Wednesday seeing a chance of those lightning, thunderstorms, and possibly some rain to come along with it. Jim?
All right, Netta, thank you so much. And we are following breaking news out of Otay Mesa, I believe. Is that where this fire is taking place? Out of Chula Vista, excuse me. And you can see we have what looks to be a burning brush fire and some type of structure in the background that could be a home. It's hard to tell from this angle. Now, the good thing here is you're seeing a lot of what appears to be white smoke. So it's hard to tell if there are crews on scene. If anybody has information on this, feel free to pass it on to me, and I'll pass it along. I'm going just by what we're seeing from Sky 6 at the moment. It's near Otay Lakes Road, I understand. And again, we're looking at live shots from Sky 6 in Chula Vista, where a brush fire is burning, and the shot is pulling out now, giving us a better sense of the width of this fire. But we do see a lot of white smoke. As far as structures, there is apparently a shed that has burned in all of this, but no reports of any family dwellings that have caught fire, though as we look around the area, it does look like there are a number of homes in the area, and you can see the areas that have been blackened by where this fire has burned. So again, a brush fire burning in Chula Vista. In the shots that we've seen here live from Sky 6, I haven't seen any emergency crews in any of those shots fighting this fire. It looks like there might be a helicopter there in the foreground, but crews out there, we assume, working this fire right now. No word on any evacuations or whether homes that are occupied by people are being guarded at this moment, but we'll continue to keep an eye on it and bring you the very latest as it develops. Well, today on Wall Street, U.S. stocks ended on a mixed note, with Greece's debt situation weighing heavy on the market. S&P 500 recorded a 0.4% loss. The NASDAQ ended the day down 31 points. As for the Dow, it was able to ride Nike's gains to higher ground, rising 57 points. Clothing maker Lululemon Athletica has another wardrobe malfunction. This time, the company is recalling more than 300,000 women's tops. The reason? Hard tips on the drawstrings have whipped some people in the face, causing injuries. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, it happens when the strings get pulled or caught on something and then released. The agency says 7 people have reported injuries. Recall applies to tops sold in the U.S. and Canada. And a major recall for Subaru. The car maker is recalling 72,000 vehicles for brake problems. Recall impacts several 2015 models, including the Impreza, the Legacy, and the Outback. Subaru says the automatic braking system can fail if the vehicle's brake lights aren't working. Celebrities are chiming in on the same-sex marriage, from Lady Gaga to Ryan Reynolds, what the stars have been tweeting today.
Welcome back. We are continuing to follow this breaking news. A fire just broke out in the Chula Vista area. This is off Otay Lakes Road near Woods Drive.
And these are shots from just a moment ago. You can see the flames in this footage as the brush there burns, and you see a structure there in the background. We have no word of any structures as far as family dwellings being threatened or burned by this. But clearly, as the shot pulls out there, you can see there are surrounding homes, and we know that crews are working the area. Also, latest word is that the fire was moving on to state-owned property and that assistance was being requested from CAL FIRE.
And right now in that area, 75 degrees, about 6 to 10 mile per hour winds, so not too crazy of wind gusts, but of course, You can see the smoke moving in that direction, in the northerly direction.
Gotcha. And what looks like a home there and perhaps burning up to it. All right, we're going to have the very latest for you on this. We have a crew on the way, and we'll have the very latest for you on San Diego 6 News coming up tonight at 10. Right now, there are some headlines that we'd like to update for you.
One of the 2 escaped murderers from the New York maximum security prison has been shot and killed while the search continues for the other. A reported burglary led police to a cabin in the town of Malone in upstate New York near the Canadian border. It's there that Richard Matt shot at a driver in a camper, triggering him to call 911. When police arrived, gunfire erupted. Matt was killed. Officers are still pursuing the fugitive David Sweat.
Series of terrorist attacks leaves more than 60 dead and hundreds injured in Tunisia, France, and Kuwait. One suspect has been killed in connection with the Tunisia attack, while others were detained in France. ISIS has claimed responsibility for only the attack in Kuwait. As of now, there is no indication that the series of attacks were coordinated.
And President Obama gave the eulogy today for slain Senator and Pastor Clementa Pinckney. He was one of 9 people killed by Dylann Roof last week at the historic Emmanuel African Methodist Church in South Carolina. The funeral was held at the College of Charleston's basketball arena. It was packed with over 5,000 mourners saying their goodbyes.
And coming up tonight on San Diego 6 News at 10, today's historic ruling on same-sex marriage paves the way for unions in all 50 states. But it also has an effect on our military, what today's decision means for the men and women serving our country. We'll have that story and all the day's late-breaking news tonight at 10.
At last, that you've joined the rest of us.
Celebrities celebrating the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling allowing gay and lesbian couples to marry in all 50 states.
Actors Ian McClellan and Derek Jacobi posted this Vine with BuzzFeed.
And others are also sharing their reactions on Twitter. Pop star Lady Gaga tweeted this picture with today's top trending hashtag, Love Wins.
Actor Neil Patrick Harris tweeted, "It's a new day. Thank you, Supreme Court. Thank you, Justice Kennedy. Your opinion is profound in more ways than you may know."
And actor Ryan Reynolds tweeted, "Sincere musical swells for humanity. Hashtag marriage equality."
And comedian and talk show host Ellen DeGeneres tweeted simply "Love one" with the hashtag marriage equality.
Wow. So I have a feeling tonight at Hillcrest is going to be a lot of fun for a lot of people.
Yeah, very historic
very crowded,
day.
I'm
Many
sure.
people celebrating, certainly all across the country. We do thank you for being with us this afternoon. We will be here tonight at 10. Of course, we'll have the latest on that fire burning in Chula Vista.
Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Good night.